Welcome back. It's me, Lou, and this is, I believe, part 4 of me drawing Wolverine again. So, with this, I think this might be the final episode of this series, possibly. It might go on further if I decide to do more work with it, but I think for the most part, I'll be able to finish the head today and the rest of the body. I mean, that's the goal, so we'll see how well I fare on that. So, let's get started. Um, so with the mask, I'm gonna first I'm gonna contour line the head, and then I'll work on the mask, and then this upper part of the skull and the eyes and face. I'll get around to that, but I kind of want to do these kind of wing things here first. The material this is made of is similar to the gloves and the torso and the briefs, so it's gonna be more black. Kind of like with this reflective light quality coming off of it. Tracing the dome of the head makes me nervous. I'm always scared that it's one of those things. Even if you're off by a little and you mess up, it'll like this. For some reason, this shows up a lot more, and just I don't know. I never feel comfortable drawing the curves on these lines. Yeah, like right here, it's it's not by much, but you can kind of tell that this when the line curves here, it's a little tighter. Then it's not as smooth and gradual as it is on this side. But that's all right. I'll deal with that. So for his eyes, now normally Wolverine for this costume, you don't necessarily see his the pupil of his eyes. It's always been portrayed in the comic books as like his eyes here are just completely white, and I think you're supposed to assume that maybe there's like lenses over his eyes. But for this, I kind of want to take the approach that like the old Michael Keaton Batman had, where on his mask there were actually holes cut out in the mask so you can actually see his eyes. And on the original Batman costume for the '89 film, the actor actually had makeup around his eyes. It's kind of hard to explain, but that's the kind of look I want to give for Wolverine's mask. I want to cut out holes for where the eyes are and try to blend in where his the flesh tone is, make that look almost like dark to match this material, but you'll still be able to tell that there's a hole cut out, if that makes any sense. It's something I've done in the past. I always prefer drawing his mask like that. Okay, so let's draw his eyes first. I'm kind of having some difficulty because I repositioned my lamp on my drafting table. Just because when I was watching back some of my videos, it's a lot darker on this side. So I kind of want to situate my lamp so it's centered over the drawing better. But the issue I'm running into right now is that it's harder for me to see the pencil lines in certain locations of where the light's hitting on it, because the light almost kind of bounces off the pencil lines, and it's hard for me to kind of see where my pencil marks are. So if I don't know, I gotta tweak the drawing, or I have to move the drawing around and kind of reposition it just so I get a better view of what I'm doing. So what I was talking about Wolverine's eyes, so here's his eyes, and I'm gonna cut out the holes where his mask is. Now there's a trick to this, because I don't want to draw the holes too high up, because then it creates a conflict where this eyebrows should be. So I'm going to, for the upper part of the eyes, the cut of the hole starts pretty much where his, the top line of his eye. And the hole will go down a little like this. I don't want to make it too big, just big enough to... So you can kind of see here, here's his mask, here's a hole, and his eyes kind of peeking out from underneath. So I'm going to come in here and kind of it's kind of tricky, because it's really easy for me to mess up if I haven't already, and you just lose the eye altogether. So I just gotta be aware of my line work and not to lose any critical white space inside of here that defines his pupils and his eyes. And right now what I'm doing is I'm uh, trying to create the shadows that come underneath his eyes, and they create the folds and the peaks and valleys of his mask. And I have to adjust that accordingly to knowing where my light source is. All right, yeah, this gets really tricky. I'm not sure if I did everything right. I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't plan out this better. I thought I'd be able to wing it, but it's a little bit more difficult than I thought it'd be. I think this is gonna go here. Since comic books and comic book art's a 2D medium, it's a lot of the geometry and the stuff that, if you were to actually create this in a 3D, like a real 3D space, sometimes it doesn't make sense in terms of the way it's drawn or portrayed in the comic book. Because everything in the comic book, they take on illusion of being 3D, but it doesn't exist in real physical space. So sometimes what you see that's drawn, it's not that it's impossible, but to like duplicate it in reality sometime would be kind of difficult. And Wolverine's mask, I've seen costumes where it's physically done right, but it's kind of hard to make sense of sometimes, just because there's a lot of weird bends and folds in it. And that does it wrap around his face? Does it wrap around his head? Is it just kind of jutting out like wings? It's always, I don't know, it's always been kind of weird to me. And let's plan out how this is gonna come out. So the light's hitting this, but I want to add some black to this. Just if I add some black to this, just to give it some more, I don't know, contrast. I kind of want this to pop, but I might have to break some rules in terms of how this is actually shaped and how the light's actually coming upon it. One thing that's always fascinated me with art is that there could be some artists who are very technically inclined, and everything they do in terms of the way they produce their art could be like perfect. You know, they might display such incredible mastery over like a brush or a pen or even a computer, but for one reason or the other, they don't, as artists, they don't necessarily click with people, and their art doesn't, I don't know, doesn't really catch on, or it's not as popular as another artist. And you know, there might be two. It's almost like music. You know, there's some musicians who are just so naturally gifted. You know, they write their own music and they perform beautifully, and everything they do is just flawless. But at the same time, they might not capture the same kind of like attention or adoration of like, you know, people. And for me, I think art's a lot like that. I think sometimes, you know, some people just have that X factor, and it's weird because I think art's kind of like music. I mean, it is like music in a sense, but there's an intangible quality about people's work that I think makes some artists more appealing than others, even if their artwork from a technical or craftsmanship point of view isn't as proficient or as is executed as nicely, if that makes sense. Because I'm a firm believer. I always told people that, especially when I was teaching drawing classes, I'd always tell my students, you know, the line you put on your paper is a reflection of yourself. You know, if you're very nervous and unsure of yourself, I think that sometimes shows in your artwork and maybe in the quality of your line. You know, if you're very confident, you know, the same can be said. That could be very evident in your work also. And I think there's that X factor that some people, for whatever reason, whatever they put, you know, when they put something down on the paper or on the canvas, you know, or on a screen, that's, you're really getting them. You know, they're really putting their soul into their work, and it just kind of comes off. And I think, you know, people are drawn to that, and they don't necessarily fully realize that or understand why they might be drawn to something. It's because you're being pulled in by the person, and it's reflective in their body of work. This mask seems a little off in terms of the way I rendered it out, but I can't really go back and change things. It works alright. I think there's some things I would have done differently. These wing flaps on his mask always throws me off. I never really fully understand how am I supposed to like render them and how to apply shadows and form to it. I always get kind of lost trying to create value on them. I'm almost thinking that I might cast this side in darker shadow than this one. I just don't want to, you know, mirror this over here. I think the composition will look a lot more interesting if this is done differently. Not in terms of, you know, the way I'm going to render or style it out, but just trying to place the shadows on it. All right, so I don't want to get lost here. It's almost like a maze. So right now I got to define which areas are going to be black and which areas are going to remain white. Ah, dude, I think I messed up. Okay, this way I can save this. So I want this black. I want this black. I want this black here. Okay. Crisis averted, I think. So already in my head, I'm kind of thinking after I'm done drawing this, I really kind of want to scan this and import it into a computer and color it digitally. Like, I'm not going to go overboard in terms of the way I color it, but I kind of want to see how this is going to look if I add, actual real color to it. And I think it'd be kind of cool. So I think that might be the next video if I continue to move forward with drawing this guy. There's other characters and things and themes I want to draw, and hopefully I'll get around to those soon. A lot of these videos are kind of dictated by like how much time I have and how much time I could devote to a video. I'm usually most productive about doing these videos on Thursdays and Fridays, and a little bit on the weekends. If my work week isn't too crazy, I can sometimes fit in videos after work if they're short enough. But some of my videos, they run really long. I'd like to go back to do something more fun to draw, but I kind of created the challenge for myself with this. I really wanted this to be a really nice drawing, and I really wanted this to be more indicative of how I draw on a regular basis. Not because when I draw YouTube videos, the style is a little bit different. Everything moves a little bit faster because I feel like I'm pressured for time. And then the drawings, they look a little bit, I don't want to say they're sloppy, but they could use a lot more refinement. After work on this drawing, I almost feel like every time I do a drawing, I just need to use a new Sharpie for each drawing, because I like having these really sharp tips, because Sharpies, the tips dull down after so many uses. When I used to work with Crowquill pens, now those are the pens that look like, let me see if I have one. Alright, this is more of a calligraphy pen, but I used to love working with these dip pens, where you just dip this into a pot of like ink, India ink, and you draw with it, and then the ink gets stored kind of like in here. It's almost like a makeshift kind of like reservoir kind of deal. And then when you press down, the nib splits open, and that's how the ink comes out. So when I was growing up, this is how I learned how to ink, and this was the proper way of inking for comic books, or just this in general, because when you work with India ink, and I'd work on Bristol board, it doesn't bleed like marker ink does, and you get a really crisp, defined line. The only thing is, it takes forever to ink with this tool, because every time I draw a line, and you have to wait for the ink to kind of dry. So it'd be easy to draw a line, then come over it accidentally with your hand, and it just smudges it. But I love the line quality that you get with using a real steel nib, as opposed to working with like a marker. But the process is slower, and it means this is working with something like this. This is really an art form, and we'll see. I might go back to it, and I'd also work with brushes too. But with markers, you could draw either with the tip of the marker or the side, and you can kind of control your line weight and how much coverage you get. Now, I'm not liking this here because this is a much more smooth, I don't know, shape as opposed to this, where there's too many curves here, so I kind of gotta not mirror it, but give it that same aesthetic and lose some of those curved lines and just go with straight lines. I think this is going to be black right here. Well, if this isn't going to be black, it is now, so. Okay, there's that. It's looking alright. Okay, finish that. Let's work on them face. Alright, to his mouth. His mouth is kind of opened up really wide. Oh man, this drawing makes me nervous. Yeah, I should have planned out the mouth a little bit better, but I can live with this, I think. It's far from ideal from what I kind of saw in my head. I think what gave me issues is that I had the hand coming over the mouth, and I kind of did, I kind of guesstimated where his teeth and tongue and everything was going to be. But I think it works, I think. Does it? Let's erase some of the lines so I can clean it up. Get a better view of this. Yeah, it's alright. It's not perfect, but it's alright. Kind of wish it was perfect, but I'll just make do with this, I guess. The one thing that bothers me is that I drew his upper lip on this side going really high up. So you see some of his gum line. But it just bothers me because without color you can't tell that this is gum line. I'm wondering if I should just cast it in black. Let's see what this might look like. Yeah, I might cast that in black. It might not look right, but it looks better than just leaving it white like that. Or I could add a shadow to it. Let's see how that looks. Alright, that kind of works a little. I don't know. Let's just go black, I think. I need to darken it in black. It's going to look weird, but the whole drawing looks weird. It's alright. Okay, that looks okay. I can live with that. I'm not 100% sure if I should have did that. I don't know. I kind of need to see some gray here. And, oh man, I don't know if I messed it up. But, I don't know. It's like I said, this is kind of like the weird challenges you make for yourself when you work like this. Not everything's going to look right or perfect. And you just got to kind of commit to what you got. And then try to, if I make this kind of mistake there, I got to create that kind of uniformity everywhere else. A lot of things I do is always kind of on a gamble. I'm always trying to figure out how people's brains are going to process the drawing. So if I make mistakes somewhere else, I figure that if I create the similar kind of pattern or texture elsewhere, hopefully the viewer, their brain will like say, okay, that's not something that's unusual or off. If there's a uniformity about it, it'll make sense if it's somewhere else also. And the thing is, I like working in black and white a lot, so I really feel the need to always create value. It might not look right, and it might not look pretty, but it's always in my head, and like I gotta, create this black and white value, so you understand where the light's coming from and this and that. Even just making the slightest adjustment could like change the mood or the way you might perceive a drawing. Right now, this Wolverine, he's not looking pretty, but he's not a pretty looking character to begin with. I was kind of hoping this would look a little bit more slicker, but it's coming off a little bit more raw and visceral, which actually fits the character more. But I think the image I had in my head was something really sleek and slick, but this is coming off a little bit more darker and moodier, which isn't bad, but it's like it's not necessarily the vision I had in my head. But that's great. It gives me an excuse to draw this guy again. Alright, that's looking alright. It's not the greatest thing in the world. It's not the worst thing in the world. But for what it is, it's working a little. Now, in some of my drawings when I was younger, I'd always draw I'd make the arms and the muscles look really vascular and just add veins everywhere. But sometimes it looks like a little grotesque sometimes. And I think if I did that, it might retract from the rest of the drawing because it adds a different layer of detail that the rest of the image doesn't really kind of possess. So I got to kind of maintain a consistency here. Okay, I think this is about finished for Wolverine. It's not perfect, but it's all right. Kind of stoked on it. Let's erase some of these pencil lines. Now I'm trying not to get too crazy when I erase this, because as we've seen in the past, I have a tendency to get really aggro and just, I don't know, almost rip the paper to shreds when I start erasing the pencils. I use these, what are these called? This is like my favorite kind of pencil. Pencil eraser. I like to use, I'm not sure if they even still make these. I bought like a box of these years ago. These are Helix brand professional erasers, and these are plastic erasers for paper and film. They're white erasers. I'm not sure if they're considered gummy erasers, but I like these because, you know, I like to hold it so it's wide, and then when I erase, I get more coverage. The only thing that's bad about these erasers is that they work awesome. They take off the pencil really good, but you get all these shavings that just get everywhere. When I was younger, it always drove me crazy because I'd take forever just erasing all these pencil lines. And then I'd think I'd catch them all. And then I'd find more later. I'm like, it always seemed like no matter how much I sat there and just kept on erasing and erasing and erasing, I wouldn't get every pencil line. And it's kind of important too, especially if you're going to scan your work into a computer, and you bring it into like Photoshop or something. You want to make sure that the pencil lines are taken off, just so that, you know, it depends on the quality of your scanner also, but you want to get as crisp of a line as possible. So when I erase, I always try to erase in sections. Like, I won't just randomly go across the page. Like, I'll tell myself, okay, I'm going to erase all the lines in the fist, and I'll just make sure to, you know, take the eraser and just cover the fist. And I'll say, okay, I'm going to move on to the forearm and make sure I cover that. Because I think if I'm more specific about the parts I'm erasing, chances are I'll get more of the pencil off. Man, this is taking forever. I just gotta make sure I'm thorough about this. Like, it makes me crazy. I took this eraser, went over the forearm so many times, but every time I look back at it, there's pencil lines that didn't take off. So as I'm erasing this, you know, I'm very happy with this drawing. I think the quality of this is how I draw most of the time. You know, this isn't my YouTube videos. The style there is a lot different. It's a lot sloppier than this. But I love drawing with this kind of line work. I like working in a lot of fine lines, like having a lot of black, a lot of areas of contrast. I like to my work to look really crisp, and I think this really embodies that. So in the future, I might be doing more of these videos where this takes, I mean, it's gonna take me a couple of episodes to finish a piece completely, but I just like the end result. The end result looks great. It doesn't look hurried. It looks like I actually took my time. And there's a part of me is like, I could easily have devoted another like 6 hours to this drawing if I wanted to get more detailed with the arms, and if I wanted to add veins and hair to Wolverine to make him look more like how he does in the comic books, where he's kind of like this hairy little fuzzball of a character that just has all this muscle. And so I kind of wanted this to kind of look like this, the way it came out. Alright, so I believe that's most of the pencil lines. I'll probably give this another pass before I scan it, but I think I got the majority of it. Alright, so Wolverine's looking pretty, he's pretty badass right now. I'm not done with this. I want to do more. I might like stage light them. And if I want to take the stage lighting off, I can do that on the computer. But I think it'll look cool to stage light them, especially with as much shadow that's casted on them right now. I think it'll really make them pop, and it'll just give the drawing a lot more, I don't know, mood and atmosphere. Yeah, I can do that. That'll take another 10 minutes at least. The question is, how much of them do I want to cast in shadow? Now, one thing I kind of wanted to do in the drawing, I might do this when I import it into the computer and color it digitally. It'll give me a chance to fix up some of the stuff I'm not 100% happy with, but I really wanted to make his arm pop out more you know, besides having this thicker line weight, by actually giving him a halo effect around parts of his arm. So when I say create a halo effect, that means like giving like a white line that would separate this from the rest of his body. It looks really cool. I mean, that's what I do here. This is a kind of a halo effect right there. But it's something that I apply actually over the character. And I'll add that maybe later. Like my intent right now is I really want to color this digitally, and I think I'm going to do that. But right now I just got to just finish this part of the drawing. Shoot. Alright, let's do this. Line cross it there, cross it there. Ah. Okay. It really bothers me that I held the marker down too tight and I got this little dot there. It's going to show up, but what you going to do? All right. Whoa, getting too close there. Whoa, too close. Too close. No, whoa, 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 whoa. Get away, get away. Shoot. Some of these lines, there's not enough breathing room. So I gotta be careful when I ink it because I don't want it to bleed over the halo line and lose that effect. Every now and then I stare at these drawings for so long, and my face is so close to the paper sometimes that I feel like I'm going cross-eyed. I need prescription glasses to begin with. I can't see what is it? If stuff's too far away. Is that far? Does that mean I'm farsighted? I can never tell which one's farsighted or which one's nearsighted. But my vision got so messed up ever since I got a phone. It's like you look at the phone all day and I don't know, it just messes with your eyes. When I was younger, I used to get my eyes checked regularly. Partially because they got messed up at one time. And then I decided I just need them to get checked out every now and then. And I was reading too, I mean, I was kind of into photography for a while. And this one photographer, I was reading an interview, he said he always got his eyes checked out every so often. Like, I think like twice a year. And I wouldn't get my eyes checked that often, but... And I remember I'd had the same prescription lenses forever. And my vision, it got to a point where I needed new lenses, I mean, a new prescription, but I never got around to it. And then when I finally got my eyes checked out, I'm like, wow, my eyes got worse. All right, let's do this. It's so easy to get high off these markers too. It's like, God, the fumes they put out. I'm not working in a ventilated area. I should have opened up my windows. But if I did, you get all the birds chirping and stuff on the microphone. Alright, this marker is dying. It kind of pains me when I have to throw away a marker. I kind of become attached to them sometimes, like people. It's like, I gotta let you go now. But don't worry, you've served your purpose. We'll honor you later. You see, look at this. The line's going away. Sometimes I'll save dull and Sharpies that they're low in ink, just because you could kind of get like almost like a dry brush effect with them. So even though I can't use them to like fill out heavy spaces like I used to, at least like put some use into them later. All right, let's go for a double coat. One thing India ink has over marker ink is that India ink, especially black, you get such deep, rich color. Marker, this is a black marker, black ink, but you still get little areas of gray. Right, the goal right now is to finish this within the next 5 to 10 minutes. I put a little bit more time into this than I liked. Initially I anticipated this only being like 30 minutes. I didn't think it'd take this long to finish all the drawing, but here we are. So for the next drawing I'm going to do another video based off this Wolverine drawing, because I really do want to color this digitally. I'm going to set up my equipment to see if I could do that first. And I got to run it through my computer and figure out which program I have to use to record it. And test the quality out. And if it's doable, I'll definitely record it and create a video where I color this. But I think the next drawing I should do should be a little bit more lighthearted and fun. This drawing was kind of like a head scratcher. A lot of thinking, so it's kind of a little bit more quiet. Unless, you just want to listen to the sounds of the marker or the pencil going across the paper. Come on, I want to finish this. Let's finish this already. Okay, let's wrap you up. Wrap you up and tie a nice ribbon around you. All right, reaching the final stretch. It's making me crazy now. My hair, no matter how many times I color over this, if the black isn't deep enough, this comes out looking gray. All right. Took 4 episodes. Okay, I don't know what happened. I must have pressed a button, but thankfully the video cut out at the last second right when I completed it. So what happened was, after I finished the drawing, I was still talking, but then my camera stopped recording, and I think I rambled on for like 5 minutes before I realized that my camera stopped. All right, so here we are. I'm very grateful that the camera stopped as soon as I completed the drawing, and that it didn't cut out sooner and I'd missed stuff. So yeah, we finished Wolverine in 4 episodes, and I do plan on doing a 5th one where I want to color them. So I'm going to color them digitally. So here's the completed piece. It took a while to do, but as I stated earlier, the intent was to take my time and create a drawing I could be proud of, that is reflective of how I normally draw. And just real quick, I'm showing an example for, like, here's the Wolverine drawing I drew a while back, like a little over a month ago. So this isn't the style that I've kind of done for YouTube. My work looks like this. This is like a drawing that takes about maybe like 40 minutes to an hour on YouTube. But I told myself I could do better than this, and I want to take my time, and then so this is what I got. So yeah, this is what my art looks like on a normal basis. It's not perfect. There's certain areas where, you heard me through the video, I was kind of unsure of what I was doing, since I was kind of making it up as I went along. But for the most part, I'm about, 80% content with the final result. So it's a win for me. I'm glad you got to join on this little journey. So yeah, get ready for part 5 where we're going to color them in. But for now, the drawing portion's done. I might jump to another drawing in the meantime, do something a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit, not as serious. This was a head scratcher. There was a lot of quiet, and because I was just lost in thought and focus. So in the meantime, my name is Lou, and it's the 10th of April 2001. Thank you so much for joining me on this multi-part series, and I hope you got something out of this. So take care, and I'll talk to you soon.